Hello everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Janine Show. Today we have a fantastic topic. I will be talking about the science of leaky gut and everything you need to know about leaky gut syndrome. So I'll also be discussing some things that you haven't heard about leaky gut, and this is relatively new. It's not something that I learned when I was, and this is years ago of course, that I was at the naturopathic college, but a lot of new evidence is coming out as to why it's so important that we take care of this leaky gut problem. One of the things that I'm sure you haven't heard is that your marriage and who you live with can definitely be having an effect on your leaky gut. So I'm going to get to that in this show today, and it really makes us think about really taking care of our gut and of course doing it in a natural way. So make sure that you're staying tuned right until the end of today's episode. I've got an exciting recipe that I'm going to be sharing with you, and a little hint, it contains some coffee, which is one of my favorites, of course, and also we will be doing an interactive meditation to help you to heal your leaky gut. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm Dr. Janine Bowring, naturopathic doctor and a YouTube educator, and I really enjoy this interaction that we have. If you've got questions and comments, I'm live today. I'd love to hear from you, and I will get to you, so certainly leave your questions and comments below, and I really appreciate all of your thumbs up and all of your support of this channel so that we can continue to bring you this fantastic information. So let's start it off. What is leaky gut? If you've never heard of this before, it has to do with the health of your intestinal cells and your intestinal barrier. And really what's happening with the health of our cells is that there's a certain amount of space that's in between our intestinal cells, which I'm going to show you in just a moment. And you can see what happens is that with the leaky gut syndrome is that these things open up. So this would be a representation of our intestinal gut cells, and what we see here is that this is our normal cilia that is on top, and this is where our food is first introduced into our system, and it's really the first interaction of the outside world into our inside body, into the internal environment, and this is where it happens, at this intestinal brush border. Now, what happens with leaky gut? Here we can see that our cells are nicely together, but what happens with leaky gut is that these tight junctions that we have in between the intestinal cells, they open up. And that's not what we want, because ideally we don't want food particles, and I'm going to show you something scary in just a second. We don't want these food particles going right through and causing problems, because now this is undigested, and now the immune system is saying, hey, what are you? I don't recognize you. You are not something that I, want to let into my system. And now you start with inflammation, and that is essentially the leaky gut, and how the inflammation, which I'll be talking about, is such a problem, and why the leaky gut syndrome is the causative factor for so many different disease processes. So we want to maintain our healthy gut interactions here. We want to make sure that we have those nice tight junctions, because again, we want that food to come in and then our body is able to break it down into the components that it can recognize. Now when we have those openings in those tight junctions, so again, we'll talk about some of the causes of this in just a second, and the causes of leaky gut syndrome. So not only food is passing through, but think about bad bacteria, think about viruses, think about parasites, and these guys coming through. Now this is a big problem, because now we have, more happening in terms of inflammation and that whole process with an unhealthy leaky gut. So I'm going to come back. So we're going to take a look at the tight junctions again, just so that you can appreciate that for a second. And you can see that we don't want those faulty tight junctions. We want to make sure that we were maximizing the ability to maintain those tight junctions. And that's what this show is all about today. So how do you know if you have leaky gut? Well, there's different tests that can be done, and typically these are more specialized tests. So most regular doctors, GPs, will not be ordering these tests. Sometimes you need to see a specialist, sometimes you need to see a functional practitioner or a naturopathic doctor to be able to order these very special tests. And one of them is called the zonulin test, and this is a blood test that if your zonulin levels are high, it would indicate that you have leaky gut syndrome. Another is a urine test. It's lactulose and mannitol, and this is something that's tested 6 hours after you ingest these two substances. Then they check the urine and to see if it has remained undigested or digested in the urine, and that gives an indication as to how that's going through the gut and showing that you have that leaky gut syndrome. As well as, an IgG test, which is a food intolerance test, would be another indication of the leaky gut, and also stool samples can be done to check for some of these problems with the leaky gut syndrome. So what's really behind leaky gut? So let's get right into it. So dietary causes, and one of the big ones that you may not have heard about is ingesting too many of the omega-6 fats. So the polyunsaturated fatty acids, PUFAs as they're called, and these are the more unhealthy types of fats in the diet. So if you're accustomed to using, the canola oil, it could be the soy oil, the vegetable oils, not a good idea when we're talking about leaky gut because it really is pro-inflammatory. Margarine as well is not the healthiest thing ever. And this is important to know that because these are inflammatory and cause that irritation on the gut wall, this is one of those huge causative factors of the leaky gut syndrome. So you want to stop using these. There are certainly healthier oils that you can be using, which is something that I'll be sharing even in my recipe today that's coming up, which I'm so excited about. You're going to love it. So make sure you stay tuned right to the end. Also, a low fiber diet. So if you're not getting enough fiber in the diet, that can be an indication as well that, you're going to cause some inflammation in the gut, and this can be a problem, as well as using artificial sweeteners. So if you love to use, the artificial sweeteners, this is something, and I have a whole list of them in terms of things to look out for. So make sure that you check out my other show, Sugar, the Bitter Truth of Sugar Addiction, and we give you some healthier alternatives as to how to swap out your sugars. You don't want to be using certain artificial sweeteners because they really disrupt your gut flora, but also they cause those opening up of those tight junctions in and causing the leaky gut. If you're consuming too much dairy, and especially if you're not breaking it down properly, this can be another causative factor of leaky gut, as well as wheat. And, if you've got a lot of gluten in the diet, it is very difficult to break down, and especially if you, are eating standard North American wheat, we've really adulterated the grain, and the farmers, in order to increase their crop sizes, and it's all about, having, that money coming in. Unfortunately, in the industry, that the wheat grain has changed, and it has become so much more difficult to digest, and this can be a problem. But we have some solutions for this in the show as well as caffeine. So I'm not talking, 1 or 2 coffees a day. I'm talking about having 3 or more sources of caffeine. So if you're overdoing it with your caffeine, then this can be really irritating, but also can open up those tight junctions and can be one of those causes of the leaky gut syndrome. And overindulging in alcohol, and we all know a little bit's okay again, but overdoing it with alcohol does have a negative effect on the gut, so you definitely want to, watch your indulgences. As well as drugs. So there are certain pharmaceuticals that are known to disrupt that leaky gut and cause that leaky gut. So antibiotics, as well as aspirin and ibuprofen, and proton pump inhibitors. And here's the big paradox, which is crazy, that you usually take acid reflux inhibitors, things to help you with GERD and acid reflux. But when you take those medications, then what happens is that you are actually causing more leaky gut, and that's that whole domino effect of you not getting better because of what you're doing to try to help yourself. And this is why I'm all about whenever we can get at the root cause and really healing what's ailing us from that root cause, then we don't have to go to pharmaceutical or unnatural things that are just masking the symptoms. So we want to do our best to do things naturally, and of course that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm educating you as to how to do this. So continuing on, what else is really behind leaky gut? Well, heavy metal toxicity. So this is something that if you have been exposed over the years to mercury. Even, I had a patient that I can think of in the past, and I was asking because a lot of symptoms that she was going through had to do with having heavy metal exposure. And she said, yeah, you know what, once as a kid, I busted open a mercury thermometer, and I was kind of playing with the mercury, and I thought, oh my goodness, you have no idea. These are toxic elements, and certainly things like mercury is found in fish. So if you eat a lot of large fatty fish, you could be increasing your mercury toxicity. If you have the dental fillings, so the mercury fillings in your mouth, again, another exposure to mercury. So you really have to, be cognizant of the fact that you want to decrease your exposure whenever possible, because it is very much related to that leaky gut syndrome. So I have a few shout outs. I want to say hello. Rebecca is calling in, or I guess you're calling or typing in, or you're on Facebook, you're somewhere, from Colander, Ontario. Hello, Rebecca. Hello, Marie Thomas. Hi, nice to see you. And Lily, hello, nice to see you as well. And Sandra, okay, you have a question from British Columbia. For diabetics, what sugar can I use in my coffee or tea? Fantastic question. So stevia is one option. Also, monk fruit is fantastic, and these are non-toxic. Again, make sure that they're pure. So you can either get the drops, or if you're going to get a powder of these, that they're not mixed with some other sugars, or maltodextrin is, sometimes in there, which again is not the best thing. So you just want to make sure that it's pure. But stevia and monk fruit are some of my favorites, and they won't raise your blood glucose level, so you're safe in that regard. So thanks for that question, Sandra. It's so fantastic that you're tuning in, and keep them coming. I mean, I'm here and interacting, so I love to hear your questions. So what else is behind the leaky gut syndrome? Stress. When can we ever talk about stress not being a factor when we're talking about our health? So, definitely we can't get away from stress, but it's how we deal with our stress that really has an impact on how much it actually affects our body, and of course in a negative way. So be sure that you stay tuned, because today I'm sharing a great meditation that will help not only with the stress, but with actually healing the leaky gut. So that's coming up at the end. As well as lack of vitamin C. So we need vitamin C and its bioflavonoids to help to maintain the collagen. And the collagen is what helps to keep those tight junctions together and helps to maintain the integrity in our small intestine, and that's super important in terms of being able to stave off the leaky gut syndrome. Brain injury as well. So there's what I've talked about before is the brain and gut connection, and that connection is so important. And what researchers have found is that if there's been any type of injury to the brain, like hematomas or concussions, that can actually offset and have that negative impact now and cause that leaky gut syndrome. So it's important, if you know somebody who's had a brain injury or a stroke, that that the gut is actually investigated as well in terms of the healing process, because it's not just what's happening here in the brain. It will definitely have an impact on the gut as well. And all the tips that I'm sharing today will definitely help in healing the leaky gut. Also, now here's the crazy thing. If you exercise too rigorously, then this can have a negative impact on your gut. So really strenuous exercise has that negative impact on the gut lining, and it's important not to overdo it. So I question, what about all these people that do intense exercise? How healthy are their guts? And it's something to think about. Yes, we all have to exercise, but we may have to tone it down a little bit if you're that person who really overdoes it with the exercise. Now, another cause would be infection. So things like candida and dysbiosis. Whenever we have too many of those bad organisms in the gut. Another famous one is H. pylori, which was discovered by Barry Marshall, and it's a really interesting story how he discovered that H. pylori is related to stomach ulcers. He actually drank a whole thing of H. pylori to prove that it was a bacterial causative agent in terms of developing stomach ulcers. But again, that H. pylori works on the tight junctions in the gut, which we saw earlier, and we want to maintain those nice tight junctions so that that food and all those other things, like the parasites and things, aren't getting through unprotected and then reacting with our immune system. And when we talk about nutrient deficiencies as well, so just in general, if you have a poor diet, this can be causing the leaky gut syndrome. And another interesting thing to note is that circadian rhythm disturbances. So you've heard me talk a lot about circadian rhythms. It's super important to me that we are in sync with nature, and at different times of the day, this has an impact on how well we actually digest, and it's important to be able to tap into, and I'm going to get to some of the tips on how to heal the leaky gut, but tapping into our normal circadian rhythms and when we're eating is sometimes more important than what we're eating in terms of weight loss, but in terms of healing our guts as well. And there's actually studies have been done on this, so I'm going to get to that, which is, it's remarkable. And I love, doing all the research because I just find it so fascinating. And when the new research comes out in these regards about the connections as to how important it is that we're connected to our environment and to nature, this is so, so important. Now, you've heard me talk about EMFs before, so if you haven't seen the show yet, make sure you check out the episode here on YouTube, The Secrets of How EMFs Affect Our Health. And we have part 1 and 2 of that program, and it's so important because EMF exposure also affects our gut and how well our gut is functioning. So whether it's our cell phones, whether it's our LED television screens, it's our computer screens, it's our tablets, all of these things have that negative impact on our tight junctions in the gut and cause the inflammation in the body. So that's something that, yes, we can't get rid of them, I realize this, but whatever we can do to minimize our exposure will definitely help us. Now, another thing is that, so children who have not been breastfed, the studies have shown that there is definitely a correlation with the health of the gut and inflammation, but also with the leaky gut syndrome. So for, children that have had, who are bottle fed with formula, then they're not set up right from the beginning with getting enough of the colostrum from their mom, and this can have a negative impact even later in life in terms of leaky gut syndrome. As well as marriage. So depending on who you are married to and living with, and this is actually shown in the research that this affects your microbiome. And we were joking behind the scenes today because a few people here at the Dr. Janine Show were shaking their head. Yes, I can totally attest to that. So in this study, we see that marriage and the gut microbiome feelings are definitely affected in terms of the ability for our guts to be healthy. And so if you look into more detail, if you're that type of person who likes to read the studies, then go and take a look at that study. Really interesting in terms of, because we are entangled with the people that we live with, and we also share very similar microbiomes. And the more that you're with, someone, not only do their emotions affect you and you're either on the same page or not, and that can cause discord, which of course that further lends itself to the stress that causes the leaky gut, but also you share similar microbes because you live in close proximity, and we know that the microbes are everywhere. So this can be a good thing, and this can be also a bad thing. So take note of who you are living with, and do whatever you can. If it's not the best in terms of an emotional relationship, that you're doing your best to get that good energy and those positive vibes flowing, because that's really important for the health of your gut. So if you're just tuning in right now, welcome to the program. I'm Dr. Janine, and today we're talking about the science of leaky gut and everything that you need to know about leaky gut syndrome. So I'm glad to have you here. Hello, I'd like to say hello to Malik. Thank you for joining in. Hello, Chef Kyle. Nice to see you. And Joyce Ann, hello. I'm so great that you're here. If you've got questions, I'd love to hear from you. And, I would love to hear how you're doing, everyone. And certainly if you have ideas for future shows as well, we would love to hear from you, because our thinking caps are always on, and we're always looking to, to feed you with the information that you're looking for. So what are some signs that you have leaky gut? Well, let's start up top in the mental emotional. If you have poor memory and a lot of mood swings, maybe irritability, this can definitely be related to the leaky gut syndrome. And I know a lot of people can relate to this. We've been through a very stressful time, certainly with the pandemic recently, and I think everybody can relate to the fact that, yeah, this may have had an impact on our guts as well, and whether what came first, the chicken or the egg, in terms of our emotions and the situation that we were thrown into, or was it starting in the gut first, and then you're even more hypersensitive to what's happening in the world? It's a great question. The good news is we have the solutions today to help you with that leaky gut, as well as headaches. So if you suffer from a lot of headaches, this is definitely related to what's going on in the gut, and I've said this forever and for years. Toxicity has a part to do with it, and the stress as well, but the leaky gut syndrome as well as brain fog. So you just have difficulty focusing in and keeping your thoughts on track. This can be related to the leaky gut as well as depression and anxiety, and just not feeling up to yourself and not being happy and healthy every day, related to the leaky gut as well. And also in terms of children, but in adults as well, ADD and ADHD are definitely related to leaky gut. So you'd want to think about, fixing the digestive tract, when, especially in kids, that, fixing the leaky gut syndrome will go a long way to help with the other symptoms that they're experiencing in the mental emotional sphere. So let's now talk about the skin. So some of the manifestations on the skin of leaky gut include acne and chronic acne, as well as psoriasis and that itchy, inflamed skin, because remember, this is an inflammatory response and also an autoimmune response, as well as eczema and rosacea. So that's a manifestation, again, on the skin that you have leaky gut. And this is something that I always saw in my patients. And once we fix the gut, then guess what? Then the rosacea disappears. As well as allergic symptoms. So if you or your children have asthma, this would be related to leaky gut as well. And also autoimmune disorders. So we'll be talking about some of those in just a second, but any autoimmune disorder, remember, because of those tight junctions opening up, that food getting through that tight junction, and now your immune system is reacting to what it's seeing, and this can be a problem. Now, gut, of course, leaky gut, so gas, bloating, indigestion, constipation, diarrhea, these would all be indications, if you have difficulty with having normal and healthy bowel movements, and it could be one way or the other, either too many or too little, that this is related to the leaky gut as well. Because it's an inflammatory response, we think about joint pain and muscle pain. So if you have a lot of chronic pain, again, we have to fix the gut. And that's because it all starts in the gut and the leaky gut. So by fixing the gut, then you'll notice that those pains mysteriously disappear. And it's because you started, again, at the root cause, right in the gut. Chronic infections. So when your immune system can't fight things off, whether this is respiratory infections as well as vaginal in the women, bladder infections as well, these would all be indications, again, that potentially there's a leaky gut problem. And excessive fatigue, so being tired all the time, again, would be part of, just not having your vital energy. You get your energy from your food, and that starts in the gut, and this is something that, we definitely have to address. So I see some more questions here. So question from Chef Kyle: I have an epigastric hernia, I don't want to have surgery, any recommendations? So yes, we have to start with the inflammation. We have to get that inflammation down. We have to stop, whatever is irritating the gut, but also, making sure that we are calming the nervous system down. Whenever I can almost get that there's a lot of stress, and we've got to calm things down. And when you get to the meditation today from Chef Kyle, when we get to that meditation, I really want you to partake in that today, because it will help you to calm down your nervous system. We're going to zero in on whatever part of the digestive tract that you may have difficulty with, and it will really help you in going a long way at healing what's going on in your body. So what are some diseases that are linked to the leaky gut syndrome? So one of them would be, of course, because it's autoimmune, rheumatoid arthritis. And, those aching, swollen joints, especially in the hands, when we start to see those knobbly knuckles, that would be related to the leaky gut syndrome, as well as lupus. So for people who have lupus with, the butterfly rash on the face, and certainly other, symptoms that go along with lupus, then again, we have to heal the gut, as well as Crohn's disease and any inflammatory gut disease, again, related with the leaky gut syndrome, and celiac, so sensitivity to gluten, that would be related to leaky gut syndrome as well. Also thyroid disorders, so especially Hashimoto's and Graves' disease, so whether you're overactive or underactive, it starts in the gut first, and it started in the gut. So that's something probably that the endocrinologist won't tell you, but this is the fact that, it started with the leaky gut, and then it manifested itself in the thyroid condition because it's autoimmune. So that's the good news is that we can start to reverse some of these autoimmune disorders because of healing that leaky gut. And that's the great thing. And it only takes 5 days to start to heal that gut wall. So it really goes to show you that you have the power to be able to take your health into your own hands and really help yourself. Autism as well, and we talked earlier about the ADD, ADHD, but also Alzheimer's. So as we're aging, we want to protect our brain and our memory and our cognition. And in this study, which will show you, there was definitely a link between the gut microbiota and Alzheimer's disease, and certainly that dysbiosis and the effectiveness of, the Alzheimer's disease and the pathogenesis of Alzheimer's was definitely correlated with the dysbiosis and that leaky gut. So again, important to be able to, to get going with the healing of the leaky gut, which is what we're getting to now with the 9 tips for how to fix your leaky gut, to be able to do that naturally on your own. This will go so far to help, even those things that you wouldn't think are related to the leaky gut syndrome when we're talking about autoimmunity. So tip number 1 is to fix your circadian rhythms. And how do we do this? Well, one of my best tips is to get that early morning sun. So looking at that sunshine, especially as the sun is rising in the morning, does so much to actually turn on your body in the right way. This is our body's natural alarm clock. We've got to see that sun. We have to do it with our open eyes. We've got to take those sunglasses off. So these people, not so good. We've got to take off those sunglasses. It's important to look with our bare eyes towards the sun. If you can't look right at the sun with a lot of blinking, you want to look off about 20 degrees or more from the sun and blink a lot, and that's all that you need. And what I do, and even this morning we had bright sun, even though it was -3 degrees Celsius, very cold, but I took off my sweater and I was wearing this blouse and I sat on my front porch, and with my eyes closed, that sun was just so powerful, with my eyes closed and just tilting my head back and forth with those natural sun rays was a fantastic way, because that is important for setting your circadian rhythm. What you do in the morning will affect your sleep at night, and I find I can't go without doing this. Even if the sun's not out, even on a cloudy day, I still do it because the sun is always there. Maybe we can't see it, but it's always there. We also want to do moderate exercise to help our circadian rhythms. And by not overdoing it, again, with exercise, because we know that too strenuous exercise will have a negative impact on our circadian rhythms, but also on our tight junctions in the leaky gut. So we don't want to do that. But some great moderate exercise every day is really important. Get that good night's sleep and do whatever you can to get to sleep on time every night. And stop eating at about 6 p.m. So you don't want to be eating, 3-4 hours before you sleep. You have to have that window so that your insulin and your blood glucose levels can drop, so that you can actually secrete your melatonin from your pineal gland, so that you get that restful night's sleep. So if you've been eating up until that bedtime, not a good idea. So one study has shown that, and they actually studied the fact that with and this wasn't done in mice, that it's important because the abnormal food timing or eating when you're supposed to be resting not only had a negative impact on the gut barrier function, but also on the microbiome. So this relatively new study, circadian rhythm is so important. And that's why I put it as tip number 1. I mean, it's something that we cannot overlook and not something that's always talked about. So you want to have that proper circadian rhythm. So tip number 2 is to use coconut oil. So this is another hint. It's coming up in my recipe that I'm going to be sharing, one of my favorite things to make. And so coconut oil is so healing for the gut, and it contains something called medium chain triglycerides, so MCTs, and this is really healing to the gut wall, something that you will absolutely love implementing into your diet. So you can cook with it, you can add it to things, and it's absolutely fantastic. Tip number 3 is to fix your microbiome. So yes, and one of the ways that we want to increase the diversity in our gut microbiome is to ensure that we are getting a lot of exposure to different types of local foods that are grown in our environment where we live. So you've got to go to your local farmers. Even at the grocery store, you want to buy something that is grown where you live, and that's something that I've become, so much better at, and it's something I didn't think about before, but so much better at in the last few years, buying local, and it really does go a long way. So think about carrots, and you don't want to and this is going to sound crazy, but the earth in which the carrots or whatever produce that you're buying, so the fresh raw fruits and vegetables, the earth in which they grow and the microbes that are on that fruit or vegetable actually help you to digest that fruit or vegetable. So not scrubbing, so think about carrots. When you go to the big box stores and they're always peeled, and or the baby carrots that you don't see any dirt, they're shiny and glistening, and they don't look natural. They don't look like they were right out of the earth. This is not going to help the diversity of your microbiome. It actually can work against you. So you want to have the carrots with the dirt on them. You want to be touching them. And, yes, you can still peel them, but a little bit of dirt isn't the worst thing. So that will actually help your microbiome, believe it or not, and help you to actually digest that food. Also, of course, going to probiotics and eating probiotic foods is important, but also taking a probiotic supplement can be really helpful. And if you are going to take a probiotic supplement, make sure that it's designed for the human digestive tract, but also contains something called FOS, so fructooligosaccharides, and these are the prebiotics that actually help to allow for your probiotics to grow in your gut, but it also helps to repair the holes in those tight junctions in the gut, which is so important for your leaky gut syndrome. Also, making sure that we take care of those bad bugs. So remember, we had these bad bugs, the parasites and things, these nasties that can get into the gut and pass through those tight junctions that have opened up in the leaky gut. So we want to kill these guys, and there's some great herbal medicines that do this, like oregano, which is fantastic, as well as black walnut, which is a fantastic herbal medicine to help to repair the leaky gut, and cloves are fantastic. And cloves actually help to kill the eggs of parasites as well. So getting at these, bad organisms through their life cycle. So I love cloves and turmeric. So turmeric is a master healer. We know it's an anti-inflammatory, and that's why I love turmeric, and I take my turmeric capsules because it's a natural anti-inflammatory, but also helps with repairing the gut, which is so important. Now, tip number 4 is to limit our caffeine and our alcohol. So too much. So more than a couple of cups of coffee a day, and more than one drink a day is just too much. You want to increase your water intake, so that's important, but limiting our caffeine and our alcohol is really important because the research has shown, and here we have another study, and this study shows that definitely the interaction of our circadian rhythm and our alcohol consumption and the gut, so increasing the gut leakiness to microbial products, and having that connection with the leaky gut syndrome and the alcohol was definitely there. So we want to do our best to limit it. A little bit's okay. Come on. I mean, we're all human. We have to enjoy, but if too much is too much, and it's going to have that negative impact, especially when you're repairing your leaky gut. You don't want to be overdoing it with the caffeine or the alcohol. Tip number 5 is to decrease our sugar intake. So coming back to that whole sugar addiction and the leptin resistance. So if you missed my show on the science of weight loss and leptin resistance, please check out that show. It all starts with circadian rhythms and leptin. So it's important that we get this leptin thing on track. If you don't know what leptin is and everything about it, please check that out. It's really important that we set up our hormones in the right way for the entire day. And this is why the leptin resistance is so important, because that has then an impact on our insulin levels. And also when our insulin is too high, then this decreases our vitamin C status. And when our vitamin C drops down, then again, that connective tissue and the collagen linking in our gut is compromised. And that then lends itself to the leaky gut syndrome. So again, everything is related, and fixing the leptin and our circadian rhythms is really important. Maintaining our vitamin C is also very important. So we also, when we talk about, let's get to tip number 6 now, it's about increasing our N-acetylcysteine and selenium. So these are important nutrients that are often mixed in with functional protein powders, and it's important because we want to make sure that we are fixing those tight junctions. That's exactly what the N-acetylcysteine and the selenium will do. And selenium, a great source is Brazil nuts, so eating about 3 Brazil nuts a day will give you some great selenium, which is that trace mineral that helps to, again, repair those tight junctions in the gut. Tip number 7 is to reduce our EMF exposure. So whatever we can do to decrease our exposure to our cell phones and that blue light toxicity, especially at nighttime. So when you're trying and your body's trying to relax, we want to make sure that our melatonin gets turned on, and that won't happen if we have those EMFs and that blue light toxicity. So turning things down and off and away from us, especially when we're sleeping, in terms of our cell phones, is super important. It needs to be, if you're charging your cell phone, that cell phone needs to be at least, I used to say 6 feet, at least 10 feet away from where you're sleeping. So yeah, just get it out of the bedroom. You don't need your phone when you're sleeping. Okay, you got it? Good. Okay, tip number 8 is supplementation. So what are some of my favorite supplements to help with leaky gut? Well, let's start with zinc. So zinc helps to repair those tight junctions, also is a natural anti-inflammatory, helps to ensure that our immune system is working the way that it should. So that is important. Zinc should always have an ionophore with it. So quercetin is a great ionophore. What that means is that it allows for that zinc to be utilized by the cell. Check out our show on zinc if you haven't yet seen that one. That's important. I talk all about zinc and the importance of zinc, as well as vitamin D3. So yes, we know that we need to get it from the sun, but when we can't get it from the sun, most of us need to supplement with our vitamin D3 to ensure that we're getting enough of that vitamin D3, as well as vitamin C. So we talked about vitamin C, and it should be in a whole food form. So if you think taking ascorbic acid or another synthetic form of vitamin C is going to help you, it won't. It needs to be in its whole food form, complexed with bioflavonoids to help to fix our collagen, and that's important to keep those tight junctions together in the gut. So for links to products of whole food vitamin C, check those below in the description. We're going to share that with you, as well as some of these other supplements, as well as DHA, so docosahexaenoic acid. This is from fish oil, so from fatty fish. We need that DHA. This helps our leptin problem. It helps our cell signaling in our bodies, helps our mitochondria, helps for us to utilize the sun's energy and turn it into an electric current. So this is super important in terms of fixing that leaky gut syndrome and what's happening in our microbiome. DHA is naturally anti-inflammatory as well, so that's really important. And to offset, remember I said at the beginning of the show, those bad fats, so the polyunsaturated, the canola, the vegetable oils, the margarine, not so good. They're inflammatory to your body, and what counteracts that is getting enough of the omega-3s, and by doing that we want to make sure that we have enough of that DHA. So often we need to supplement if you're not eating a lot of fatty fish. And again, you know, if you've seen me talk for years now, too much large fatty fish, not a good idea because of the toxicity. So sometimes it's safer to go with a fish oil supplement that's high in that DHA to help you. As well as coenzyme Q10 is really reparative for the leaky gut syndrome, and also enzymes. So enzymes especially to help to break down your gluten and your dairy products, because these they're just so inflammatory and they cause so many problems. So instead of having to abstain from them completely, which is very difficult to do, I've tried it myself to stay away from wheat and from dairy. I last maybe 1-2 days. I can't do it. So what helps me is taking digestive enzymes that are specifically formulated to be able to help to break these down so that I can still indulge and not be compromising my gut health at the same time. So let's get right into our Dr. Janine self-healing meditation for improving our leaky gut. And before we get there, I just want to say some shout outs. Hello, Stephanie Mendez. Brock Peters, thank you for joining us. Hello, John. Thank you for joining into the show. So glad to have you here. And, okay, so on the wheat question. So Anne has a question. Dr. Janine, if you go off of the wheat, does it have to be forever? Well, here's the good thing, because if you're using those specialized digestive enzymes, then you do not have to go off these things forever. You can be like me, who, you know, still indulges a little bit. You don't want to overdo it with having the wheat, but, you know, you can still enjoy a little bit, and being able to do that by taking the digestive enzymes. So I hope that helps you, and thank you for your question. And okay, let's get right into it now with the self-healing meditation. So that now we're going to heal our guts. We're going to do it by tuning into the energy of the universe. I'd like for you to keep your feet on the floor, nice and grounded. And remember, whenever we do any type of energy work, you want to be as grounded as you can, and sort of visualizing actually connecting your energy with the center of the earth. This is important to make sure that we are maximizing the benefits of the healing. And we're going to close our eyes gently. And we're going to take a few deep breaths and really centering in on the healing potential that the universe, Mother Nature, offers us. And taking a few deep breaths in and out. And breathing in and out. And today we're focusing in on healing our leaky gut. So we're going to actually start in the brain, bringing in the healing energy of the universe through the top of our head and into our brain, and allowing for all of our brain connections to light up as they should with normal function, healthy orientation, and the right electromagnetic connection to the earth. And now connecting that proper signaling from our brain down to our gut. And if you can perceive that energy, that light coming in through the top of your head, down through your brain and down and connecting to your gut, and light up your gut from within with this healing energy. Continuing to breathe. And now we'll focus in on those tight junctions. And if we have gaps in those tight junctions, we want to close them up. And allowing for those tight junctions and all the intestinal cells to allow in what needs to come in for digestion and to be nice and tightly coupled to keep out what should not be getting into our mainstream circulation. Asking our microbiome to have great diversity and to work on our behalf to help with our digestive process. And lighting up our microbiome from within with the light as well. Now, if you choose to, take one of your hands or both and put them on any part of your gut, or really anywhere on your body where you have an issue, inflammation, and just hold it there and sending that light and that loving energy to that body part that you're holding on to. Sending that healing. And a few more deep breaths in and out, giving thanks for all the healing that's happened. And when you're ready, coming back and opening your eyes. And a few more deep breaths. And again, being grateful for what has just transpired. And I would love to hear, I've been hearing some fantastic feedback as to how this is helping all of you. Be sure to share this with your friends as well, because even if it seems not even related to leaky gut, that's beside the point, because all of the healing meditations that I offer is not coming from me. This is something that I'm getting, I believe, from above, from God, from the universe, from Mother Nature, from that healing energy to be able to heal all of us. And we're not having to do anything but just tune into it and ask for that to happen. The more you do these healing meditations, the faster you will heal. And you can heal by doing them one time, just doing it once, and you're healed. So I have witnessed that not only in my own body, but in my patients again over the years. So it really is a powerful thing to do, and I hope that you're sharing it, because we need to heal as many of us as what we possibly can. So a few more shout outs and we're going to get to the recipe, which you're going to love. So Luna, hello. Oh, thank you. You're so sweet. Luna's saying, oh my God, OMG, you are God sent. Thank you, Luna. I have learned tremendously. Thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you for watching and, for supporting the channel. I hope that you can share this with your friends and your family, because I think there's a huge amount of power in being able to heal ourselves from the inside out. So thank you, Luna. Rebecca, hello. Great. So enjoy your great information. Thank you, Rebecca. And also protocols. So for leaky gut for our fur babies, our fur kids. Yes, that is something that is a great idea for a future show. We have to heal their guts as well. So probiotics for pets are available. We can maybe put it in the link in our description as well. Be sure that you follow me, and VitaTree Pets is another great page that you can follow on Instagram to get a lot of information about healing our pets and of course doing it naturally. So I want you to check that out. And Sandra has a great topic idea, how to improve libido. Yes, that is a fantastic topic. We will work on that that one. I can promise you that, because that's a huge question for a lot of people, and it's something that definitely we have to work on. Okay, so thanks everybody. Let's get to the Dr. Janine Healing Iced Coffee. You're gonna love this. This is my favorite thing to do in the morning, especially, you know, if you're fixing your leptin resistance. So check out that show if you're trying to lose weight, if you want to get your energy up, if you want to heal your leaky gut. This is my all-time fave thing to do in the morning. So you can even do this with if you're fasting, and this is if you're doing dirty fasting, the way that I like to do fasting, you can do this recipe. So let's get right to it. Here we go. So again, we want to be healing our tight junctions in the gut and doing it naturally. So what I've got here is some ice. So I've just got about almost up to a cup. Now, depending on the thickness of how you like your shakes or your iced coffee drinks to be, it's totally up to you, but you can put more or less ice. I have some almond milk, so up to a cup of almond milk. I'm adding that in to my blender. And then I have a shot of espresso. So you can brew a full coffee. Again, if you like it more of that coffee flavor, you can add more, but this is a nice big shot of espresso. And of course, if you want to do decaf, naturally decaffeinated coffee, you could do that. And here we go. Here's the MCT. So this is the coconut oil. So about a tablespoon of that into my shake. And we have our protein powder. So this, of course, is the chocolate flavor, because this is going to be like a cafe mocha iced drink. The famous one from Starbucks, of course, is very similar to this. And so I add a scoop and a half because I like to get that extra protein. So when I'm doing the leptin resistance protocol and having to get in that extra protein in the morning is sometimes difficult, but I'm telling you, when you drink this in the morning on an empty stomach, you can go, like I can go till 1 p.m. without having food, because this has filled me up and I'm getting all of that protein, which is very satiating for my digestive tract and for my hunger. So here we go. Okay, here, I'm so happy about this because I did my intermittent fasting today, so I haven't had anything to eat all day. And I'm telling you, when you taste this, now you can certainly go with the vanilla protein powder as well, but when you do it with the chocolate protein powder, and I have to say that from our friends at VitaTree, the protein powder is actually designed for leaky gut syndrome. So the added benefit of not just being that it's good for, you know, in terms of a great protein source, that it's easily digestible, but it's actually formulated, so it has a lot of the ingredients like the N-acetylcysteine, the selenium that we talked about for healing that leaky gut, which is important. So here we go. Oh my goodness. It's so good. Okay, so I have to finish the show, I guess. Coming back over here. I could just be done right there for myself because it was so fantastic. So thanks everybody for joining in. If you've got questions about today's show, I would love to hear from you. Please keep me posted in your comments. And you know, if you've got, again, more ideas for future shows, I'd love to hear from you. Be sure to share this video and please give me a big thumbs up. I truly appreciate it. I love all the feedback that I get on the videos. Make sure that you're subscribed. So if you're new, it's your first time here, make sure that you're subscribed and turn on your notifications by clicking that bell. And always remember to take good care of your health and to do it naturally. Thanks for joining me today.